both feel we're living worlds apart. It's fucked now, we lost in limbo. Remembering what you said though, when I asked you if we'd make it far. That one last kiss that they write about, my one last wish you could never doubt. I trust angels who fly away from you, and you told me that we'd never die. Gave me so many reasons why we were meant to be. Then she said no, 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 no. No, 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 you should. I've earned the cost and now I've paid it. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, please don't go. I know my face a memory erasing. Been a few years since I heard your voice, yeah. Lost a few here, but it's not by choice, no. Girl, I see your face every day when I look through my phone. Can't delete all these memories, won't leave me alone. Hit my blind side, never saw you coming. You were so wild, but no, I was nothing. And I'm nothing now, nothing's changed. You know I'm just the same. Miss you now, but I hope that someday you explain. That one last kiss that they write about, my one last wish you could never doubt. I trust angels who fly away from you, and you told me that we'd never die. Gave me so many reasons why we were meant to be. Then she said,
well, hello everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate your time. You could have chosen to be anywhere, but you chose to be right here, and I appreciate that. Thank you all. It's good to see you all in chat. A lot of news coming out, and hopefully, oh Lord in heaven, I pray, finally, hopefully some answers into the JonBenét Ramsey case. So, as you guys know, I am from West Virginia originally, and and this Patsy, she is originally from West Virginia. She grew up down the road, very close to where I grew up, and this story, kind of, even as a kid, I was a kid myself when this happened, and when you recall JonBenét Ramsey, for those of you that remember when this happened, it was on every tabloid, every magazine cover, every news channel, every newspaper. I think this and probably the O.J. Simpson was two of the biggest things in the 90s that I can remember. Now, there's been a lot of vigor in this case. Not that it's ever stopped, but just more interest and new technologies that have been coming out. I don't know if any of you have, followed this case in the last few years. Yes, Patsy is from West Virginia. She certainly is. All right. So one day I'll talk more about Patsy and all of that. How my family, some members of my family knew some of Patsy's family and the Ramsey family. So I'll talk more about that. But anyway, that's not what we're here today for. we are here today for a guy named Gary Oliva. And I'm having technical difficulties. Perfect. Give me 2 seconds, y'all. It never fails. Come on, Lord, help me. Guys, do me a favor while I'm struggling here. Hit the thumbs up button if you don't mind. Is this working? Come on, man. Please. Sorry, y'all. I really want to be able to use them. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Lord. All right. So let's start. Here we go. I'm going to show y'all a video in just a moment. But for those of you that have followed this case, let's pop me over here. All right. I do want to do a new thing honoring the victims that we talk about. We honor them through our intros always. We update them every year. However, I do want to take a moment of silence for JonBenét. We'll take a few moments of silence before we start this. Oh God, I've been muted. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. So, sorry about that. So, do apologize for that. So, JonBenét, her real name, her full name is JonBenét Patricia Ramsey. She was born August 6th, 1990, and she passed away December 25th, Christmas Day, or potentially December 26th, before or after midnight is not like really, I know, 2 minutes I was muted. I'm sorry, guys. I'm good at it all. I'm having technical difficulties and I'm trying to fix something and talk and then do all of this at once. So apologize. So she was, died December 25th or 26th in her home. She was brutally bludgeoned and strangled to death. She was a child beauty queen. It was John and Patsy, and they had 2 kids. They lived in Boulder, Colorado. They're originally from John and Patsy had settled down in Georgia, but they had moved to Boulder, Colorado later on, which is where she was, murdered. JonBenét's final resting place is at the St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. So let's get to the was it GSA2? That we don't know, even still yet today. We still don't know today, even if that is true. Pedo, who confessed to unaliving JonBenét Ramsey, had a very creepy photos, hundreds of JonBenét and other children. We're going to get to this, and then we're going to get to that video. And the alarming, you got to stay with this, the alarming stuff that's coming out. So Gary Oliva, he's a 59-year-old convicted pedo with a very violent past, was arrested in June 2016 after being found in possession of hundreds of images of child you-know-what in Boulder, Colorado. They found a Pinterest account belonging to Gary Oliva, had folders dedicated to JonBenét Ramsey, and another folder titled Children. Look at sweet JonBenét here. Just a beautiful, beautiful child. Here is a photo of Gary Oliva. He was issued an undetermined sentence for at least 10 years and will only be released if he passes the state offender rehabilitation program, which we know these offenders cannot be rehabilitated. That is why we have the offender list. Don't get me started on that though, but in 2 decades before his arrest, Oliva was considered a suspect in the killing of JonBenét Ramsey, a 6-year-old pageant queen who was found brutally unalived in her parents' basement on December 26, 1996, at the time of her murder. Oliva had ties to an address just 13 homes from the Ramseys, and he made a phone call hours after her body was found. And when I say hours, I mean like just hours, single digits hours after her body was found, crying to a friend, "I hurt the little girl." The friend, Michael Vale, which I have him on my cover photo for those of you, reported the tip to the Boulder Police Department. He reported this immediately, y'all, in 1996. But investigators didn't follow up on the lead until 4 years later. Now, y'all have to remember, this was 1996. This was Christmas. This was happening in Christmas, right? So everybody, even the cops, they keep a skeleton crew on major holidays, you know, investigators and everything, right? We'll get to that where the wind blows. Good to see you here. So he made the phone call. He was crying. He was hysterical. So yeah. The department immediately, but investigators didn't follow up on the lead until 4 years later when Olivia was arrested for trespassing on the campus of the University of Colorado in December 2000. Now, that right there just kind of lets you know that he'll trespass. He'll go in places he's not supposed to go. During the incident, Olivia was found to be in possession of hugs, but with a D, images of JonBenét, newspaper clippings from her case, and a poem about the young girl titled Ode to JonBenét. He was also found to be carrying a stun GUN, a particularly interesting development to the cops because they believe one was used to subdue JonBenét before her death. You can't hear me? That's because my microphone is... Boy, when it rains, it pours, doesn't it, y'all? Is that better? Hopefully that's better. Sorry about that. Everything keeps switching off. I don't know. Okay. And for those of you that remember, that was a big thing because there looked like, if you need to know anything about a stun, you know what, GUN, can't say it on here, they have like prongs. They have prongs. And from almost the beginning, people thought there was a stun, you know what. When Olivia was arrested for child P offenses 16 years later, a search on his phone yielded more than 330 images of JonBenét, including pictures of shrines to the young girl and images, sadly, from her autopsy. Vile contacted investigators in Boulder after Olivia was determined, reiterating his beliefs that Olivia was in some way involved in the unalivings of JonBenét. Additionally, Vale shared a series of screenshots with police that he captured from Pinterest account belonging to Olivia, which had been obtained by the U.S. Sun. On the profile of his account, there was a folder dedicated to JonBenét containing 76 photos. There's another folder of images titled Children, containing photos of mostly younger girls modeling, which appeared to have been randomly just collaborated randomly from the internet. Disturbing content. The existence of Olivia's Pinterest account is referenced in the 2016 arrest report. Citing an anonymous source, the report reads, quote, "The source stated that they found hundreds of photos pinned on Gary Oliva's Pinterest page. Quote, the source indicated a long history of knowing Olivia and that Olivia used the mail to source disturbing things in the mail." The source had concerns that Olivia was connected to the JonBenét Ramsey unaliving and mentioned Olivia's criminal history and pointed to the photos of the children on Olivia's Pinterest, end quote. Quote, I never loved anyone like I did JonBenét, and yet I let her slip and her head, trigger warning, bashed in half, and I watched her die. Wait till you hear this video, guys. Just wait. Vale informed police that he believed Olivia posed an immediate danger to the public if he was ever permitted to be released. The officer who authored the report said he made contact with investigators overseeing the Ramsey case and informed them of the tip. Quote, I was informed that they had previously received and looked into the information as it relates directly to the Ramsey case, end quote, reads the report. I look at Olivia's Pinterest page. There was a section devoted to the Ramsey case. There was also a section labeled for children. Some of the children were posed in somewhat revealing outfits, like done for an artistic flair, and all appeared to be professionally produced. So it sounds that is true. That is true, Marilyn. Yes, she was. She was with one of the art supplies from, I believe, Patsy's room. No, they don't know whether this person hit JonBenét first or strangled her with the garrote. Now this is where will they see need to prove he's telling the truth? Absolutely, Selena. Absolutely. But we're gonna get to some stuff because it's very, very interesting. This case needs to be solved, y'all. It really does. Patsy, she went to her grave not knowing what happened to her daughter. I mean, I just think after this happened, bless her soul. Chilling confession. Vale reached out to Olivia behind bars shortly after his arrest in an attempt to elicit and sorry, my mouse wasn't working. A confession from him regarding JonBenét's unaliving, convinced he was in some way involved. For decades prior, since graduating high school, the two men have stayed in touch via mail, updating one another about their respective lives. However, sometimes around 1989, the suspect of Olivia's messages suddenly became incredibly dark, disturbing, and making frequent mentions of blood, unalivings, cannibalism, and even child R. Within 2 years, Olivia would be arrested for R-ing a 7-year-old girl and attempting to strangle his mother and unalive her with a telephone wire. So let's think of what we have here so far. We have a very disturbed man who 8 or 9 houses down had affiliations with a house 8 or 9 houses down from the Ramseys, right? The same time. Before it was even, I think, mentioned to the public, this guy called his friend in California, he hadn't talked to for a long time, and he was crying and hysterical, saying that he had, let me see the quote here, saying through tears, being hysterical, quote, "I just hurt a little girl," end quote. This was just a few hours before JonBenét was found. Okay? And then this guy, 2 years later, was arrested for R-ing a 7-year-old girl and attempting to unalive his mother with a telephone cord. And he was keeping memorabilia, literally shrines of JonBenét. Now, we know that there's just weirdos out there that get obsessed with I can't even say it, children photos and all of that, right? We know that. Guys, we have 531 in here, 184 likes. Do me a favor, hit that up. And Julia, thank you so much for 6 months of your support. It means the world to me. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, and so we got that. Now let's keep going. Here is the cretin. Here he is. Now here is Michael Vale. He is a former classmate of this guy, Gary Oliva. This is the gentleman that called right after JonBenét was unalive, saying this guy called him. Wasn't looked at for 4 years later. And, there was just, Boulder, Colorado is off to itself. It's people who, it was a way smaller community in 1996. And there was a lot of mishandlings at that time. But in the years that followed, he continued to write Vale, sending him cassette tapes containing sadistic recordings and newspaper clippings of missing children, along with locks of hair. How did he practice the ransom note so many times in the house? Good question. Good question. We gotta, one thing we'll look at, please. We're going to go over the ransom letter shortly. So can you just imagine someone sending you these sadistic things and locks of hair? Vale would not receive a call from Olivia. Vale would then receive a call from Olivia the day JonBenét was found unalive, convincing him that his old high school classmate played a role in her unaliving. He quietly campaigned to the police department, the Boulder Police Department, to arrest Olivia for years, but no charges was ever filed. With Olivia now behind bars, that's where he should stay, in my opinion. Vale started writing him at the Lyman Correctional Facility, where he remains today. quizzing him on the phone call in 1996 of December, and prying for information about JonBenét's unaliving. By 2019, Vale achieved a breakthrough. Olivia sent him more than a dozen letters over a period of several months claiming that he unalived JonBenét by accident, he says. Quote, I never loved anyone like I did JonBenét, and yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half, and I watched her unalive, end quote. It's not actually a quote because I messed it up. So uh, Olivia wrote in one message, quote, it was an accident. Please believe me. She was not like the other kids, end quote. JonBenét completely changed me and removed all evil from me, end quote, he wrote in another. These are quotes that he's wrote in these letters. Quote, just one look at her beautiful face, her glowing, beautiful skin, and her divine God body, I realized I was wrong to KILL other kids. Yet by accident, she unalived, and it was my fault, end quote. In other letters penned by Olivia, this monster claimed to have a, quote, disorder for unaliving children. There is no, in my opinion, disorder for unaliving children. That's just evil. Evil. In other letters penned by Olivia, oh, okay, I already read that. Please don't hate me. I'm sorry I turned scum, but even when you first met me, I told you how I wanted to unalive children, he says. When I met JonBenét, she took away the horrible craving to unalive kids that you know me for. She changed me into a new person, but it's okay. I've unalived so many children, I've lost track, he says. Was his DNA found on her? I don't know. Well, because there was DNA found that wasn't the parents. However, I don't know if I'm sure they have his DNA, but I know that there was some issues with the Boulder Police Department allegedly not wanting to give up the DNA samples because it was a one-shot kind of thing. He's a monster. Boulder PD was made aware of the letters and acknowledged them publicly in a statement at the time. Quote, the Boulder Police Department is aware of Gary Oliva and has investigated his potential involvement in the case, including several previous confessions, Boulder PD wrote. The department routinely receives information on the investigation. Information provided to the police department is reviewed along with many tips, theories we receive. Police concluded there are no new updates in the investigation, and the department will not comment further. Okay, he was DNA tested in 2000, but sources say that he was not found to be a match of the DNA evidence recovered from the crime scene. Okay, but listen here. However, very little DNA exists in the case of Olivia. He was never officially ruled out as being a suspect. But listen here. All right, now we're going to play it. Maybe I can find it. Okay. So I had to, there's very, very, very little evidence, and they will not really show it. Now, there is some music playing in this because I have to, otherwise they don't like it. Let me know if y'all can hear this, please. Check out volume up.
Luke Kenton is with us. Luke, great to see you. Thanks so much. Read your article. Wow. Let's talk about this development. A man named Gary Oliva. Gary Oliva, tell us.
Can y'all hear that? Definitely, Shannon. Yes, E&E, we'll get that. Yes, okay, perfect. Perfect, okay.
What you found out about him, what his link is to JonBenét Ramsey.
Yeah. So Gary Oliva, first and foremost, is not a good guy. The story involving Gary kind of begins on the 27th of
Why is it?
December.
Something's wrong.
December 1996, when he was reported to Boulder police, because basically the night before he called an old high school friend back in California, who he said through tears and could barely catch his breath, "I've just hurt a little girl." So this was on the night that JonBenét's body was, a few hours after JonBenét's body was found on December 26th. He was crying, he hurt a little girl in Boulder, and he hung up the phone. Now his friend that was on the other end of the phone didn't know really what to make of that call, was obviously concerned, but couldn't get any information out of him. It wasn't until the next day that he went on the front porch, picked up the newspaper, and saw the news that a 6-year-old girl had been killed in Boulder, Colorado. He immediately calls the Boulder Police Department, reports the call from the day before, and then 3 months pass, he doesn't hear anything, and he calls the tip line again, reports it to Boulder Police, doesn't hear anything again. Fast forward 19 years later, Gary Oliva is in prison for child pornography offences and confesses in a series of letters to the same person that he called that night, claiming to have killed JonBenét by accident.
This is unbelievable. I mean, this is did police ever talk to this man in California? I mean, he is claiming to have gotten a call before this story is even in the news from this guy.
Yeah, so hours before it, made headlines across the country, he said, "I've hurt a little girl," and he's in Boulder. And bearing in mind at the time, this guy was living, was associated with the property about 13 houses away. He was getting his mail from the church, 13 houses away from the Ramsey family. And the tip, like I said, wasn't followed up upon immediately by the Boulder police at the time. They were zeroing on either Patsy or John Ramsey being responsible for JonBenét's death. It wasn't actually until 4 years later when he was arrested on the campus of the University of Colorado in Boulder, with pictures of JonBenét in his bag, a poem that he'd written to JonBenét called Ode to JonBenét, and he was also found with a stun gun, and that was kind of a crucial development for investigators because over the course of their investigation after the first few months, they kind of theorized that perhaps that she was subdued with a stun gun prior to her death. So that's when police started looking at Gary, which was 4 years later.
Yeah.
So 4 years later, he was still, had a stun gun whenever he was trespassing, which obviously someone came in their house and trespassed and unalived her. Yes, the guy called before the story was released. And you have to remember about the DNA. First of all, this crime scene was so contaminated because, naturally, Patsy and the Ramseys, they called, their friends and stuff. They were upset. People, obviously when something happens, family, friends immediately come over. And also, this was 1996. DNA was in its infancy. It is nothing at all then like it is now.
Nothing seemed to come of it all. Was he, am I understanding there's a photo of him or images of him at a vigil for JonBenét as well?
Yeah, that's right. So this vigil took place on the year anniversary of her death. So that was on Christmas night, I believe that was held a short distance away from the Ramseys' home. And that picture that we published was actually taken by private investigators hired by John Ramsey.
That's right. He was found the year anniversary vigil of JonBenét Ramsey. They have this dude that we're talking about Gary Oliva. A private investigators got him at the vigil a year after it happened.
Who were investigating Gary at that time, believing him to be a very credible suspect, certainly somebody that's capable of committing such a horrific act. The Boulder police wouldn't look at Gary for another 3 years after that.
Unbelievable. One final question. How specific were the details in these letters, these alleged confession letters?
Yeah, so the confession letters were written in and around 2019. There's roughly a dozen of them. One of them I can read you here. I've got it written down below me here. It says, I never loved anyone like I did JonBenét, yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half and I watched her die. It was an accident, please believe me. So, he's claiming that he killed JonBenét by accident. Whether or not you can take that.
Sorry about that video, guys. It kept going in and out. I don't know what's the deal with it, but so there's a lot of different. Yes, okay. So let's look at the ransom note. I know you guys are talking about it in chat, so let's look at this ransom note and see if there's any clues. Okay, now the ransom letter is interesting, to say the least. It's hard to read. It's hard to read his writing. It says, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. Now remember, Patsy found this going down the steps on a stair tread, right? Now, this letter, it would have taken a long time to write, I would think, in my opinion, at least. I don't know. Okay. Let's read it. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign. I don't even know what that word is. Something. We, and scribbled out, respect your business, but not the country that it serves. It's very odd, isn't it? Very odd. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. Okay, now, why did they write this letter? Faction. Does it say faction? Okay. Why would they write this letter knowing that JonBenét is downstairs in the wine cellar? Fraction? There's not an R there. Why would they write that? This letter. It's very bizarre. Is this someone just out of their head writing this? We have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1993, or 1997 rather, 1997, you must follow our instructions to this letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Very specific, but not only that, the amount is very specific as well. Pre-written when he was in the basement waiting to abduct her, maybe? Possibly. Let's see here, guys. We have 590 in chat, 266 likes. Come on, guys. We need to get them up. Let's get to 500 likes, 500 likes, 500 likes. And that is correct. Peas in the pod. $118,000 was Dad's work bonus amount, if I remember correctly. You are correct. That was John, his bonus. That was a very odd number. Make sure that you bring an adequate size does it say attach? I don't know what that says. I don't know what it says. To the bank. Or does it mean suitcase? I don't know what it means. To the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting. So I advise you to be rested. Yeah. First of all, who's going to be rested? Remaining 18,000 is a huge clue. Why do you think that one's solved? Mystery. You think it's somebody's paying, or just curious? Where was that? I advise you to be rested. It would, if we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange on earlier delivery of the money. And I think it says, does it say hints? I'm sorry, I don't know what it's so scribbly. I don't know what the word is. Does it mean like carrier? A courier? Is that what it means? And hints? A carrier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do particularly I think it's think or do particularly thank you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she unalives. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she's unalived. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any I don't know what R. I think it's R. Found she unalived. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of unaliving your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions. What are your thoughts so far on this? Why take the time to write all of this and leave the daughter in the basement? Never did understand that. That is exactly what my question is. Definitely written by someone uneducated. Is this new evidence? This letter is not new evidence. This letter was found. This was the first thing found, right? Patsy's walking down the stairs. It's a regular day. John is getting up very early, getting ready to go to work. Patsy's going downstairs, got her house coat on, and on the stair tread, there's this letter, and she starts reading it. And the first thing she does is run to JonBenét's room. She's missing. John's in the bathroom getting ready. And that is when it all starts. The plan was to blackmail, not unalive her. He didn't plan on unaliving her. Where was that? He planned on taking her, maybe. If we are to believe this guy right here, right? Gary Oliva. Very creepy guy, right? He says that he didn't mean to, which they all say that, right? He was obsessed with her. In my opinion, he would have taken her away to have more time with her. Yeah, I mean, you think about it, try to, this is at night. There is another kid asleep and two adults in their bedroom, the parents. So he doesn't want any sounds, right? And then after she wakes up, she's going to be scared. She's going to be very scared. So the first thing she's going to do is either start screaming, start crying, one of the two. And he's going to do anything it takes not for her to scream. And, he could have potentially tried to knock her out, or that is when he could have tried, with the garrote and tried to strangle her. Now, we know that this happened in the basement, in the wine cellar, the farthest part of the basement, in a separate room, the wine cellar, right? So it is in the basement, in a separate room, which is also another way to keep the sound away as much as possible. But he, my theory is he could have knocked her, thinking he was going to knock her unconscious, but there was no skin breaking or anything like that, but there was like skull fracture and all of that. So it was more internal. I know from the reports. Was John's oldest son in the garage apartment staying during Christmas? He was in the same house. I mean, he was just, I think maybe a couple years old or something like that. But there was a few years ago, I felt really bad for JonBenét's brother. They tried to throw him under the bus too. They've thrown everybody under the bus in this case. Like, not, and when I say they, I mean the public. They've blamed Santa Claus that JonBenét was, took pictures with, people at her little, what are they called? Beauty pageant things. They blamed the housekeeper, the gardener. I mean, just on and on and on. So there's that. All right. Where were we on this? Follow these instructions and you will stand 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only I don't know what that says. It looks like it starts with an F. To me, it looks like it says fat. Fat one around. Is that what it means? Is that what it says? So don't think that unaliving will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. Signed, SBTC. That is correct. So there is that. Fluffy celebrates 16 months, my love. Thank you so much, Fluffy. I do appreciate your support, my sweetheart. You're very good to me. Thank you. Appreciate it. 321 likes. Come on, guys. Hit me, baby, one more time. Like that. So, here, let's look at. So it's very interesting. This has been something we've really, really been looking for. This is JonBenét's. Make sure y'all can see this. Movie speed references. Yeah. Grave at in Marietta, Georgia. Okay. Oh, if I would have read it, here's the text of it. I could have read it like this from Wikipedia. They have it written out so you can read it rather than reading this. 911 initial calls, discovering the body at 1 o'clock Mountain State Time. Detectives Arn, how do you pronounce him? He passed away, I believe. Aren't asked John Ramsey and Fleet White, a family friend, to search the house to see if anything seemed amiss. They started in the search in the basement. John opened the latch door, which Officer French had overlooked, and found his daughter's body in the room. JonBenét's mouth was covered with duct tape, a nylon cord, and was found around her wrist, neck, and her torso was covered by a white blanket. John picked up the child's remains and took her upstairs. When JonBenét was moved, the crime scene was further contaminated and critical forensic evidence was disturbed from the returning forensic teams. The Ramseys provided handwriting, blood, and hair samples to the police. John and Patsy participated in a preliminary interview for more than 2 hours, and Burke was also interviewed within the first couple of weeks following JonBenét's death. The DNA is worthless in this case, hence JonBenét is so relaxed. I don't know. All I know is this needs to be solved, to say the least. To say the least. All right, what else are y'all saying? Thank you, Fluffy. Mystified. This dude was known to have a stun, yes, and think the prong mark. That is true. That is true. Smiley Miley. Oh, guys, I will be live on my second channel, hopefully in a little bit. Clutch Them Pearls, and I want to give a shout out on that channel for my birthday's coming up, and some subscribers of y'all and a creator sent me a couple things I got in the mail today. So I want to give, I'll go ahead and I'm going to do the opening, but I'll give a shout out here. Bloodhounder, thank you so much. I do appreciate it for the gift. And Smiley Story, thank you so much, my love. I'm going to be opening them on my other channel over there because it's more of my non-crime channel. So, yeah, there's that. Makes me lose hope about the Summer Wells case, and this is not unsolved. Well, it's a lot, but we have more technology now. It's easier to get caught in a lot of ways now because, in 1996, we got to remember, like, the internet was just starting, right? It was botched from the beginning. Some folks believe the letter was written by someone other than American. Others believe it was Patsy, others intruder. Yeah. Now, JonBenét Ramsey. John Ramsey, sorry. I'm so used to saying JonBenét. John Ramsey, he is going to be on Court TV Friday evening. You'll probably have a schedule. You can probably schedule. Be sure to watch that. We're going to talk about it after he does the interview, because he's going to be doing an interview talking about this guy. It's promising. This is odd, I feel, for John. Yeah. No, John, thank God, has not died, but he is getting older, guys. He's getting older. And Patsy, unfortunately, did die of, I believe, ovarian cancer. And she went to her grave not knowing. Justin, did Patsy wrote the note? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. So there's that. I have a friend that one Big Brother also detective that did a special in this case. Oh, it's interesting, Lisa. That's very good. I don't think that. I think someone came in that house and did something to this little girl. That is true. They said that she was not the author of the letter. That is true. Yeah. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off of here. I will be live hopefully in a little bit on the other channel, Clutch Them Pearls. I hope John is able. I do too. To number one, I really pray. But this guy, this Gary Oliva, he is not a good guy. Patsy was cancer-free and was celebrating. It was a special time for them all. Yes. Yeah. We're going to be talking more about this, but I wanted to bring this to you guys because this hopefully is something. God, I pray there's something on this. All right. I love you all. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.